Hey Tank, gotta change the front brake pads and rotors on this 2020 Ford Transit 350 HD. It's got the dual rear wheels. When you order your rotors, be careful. They will ask you questions like 5 lug or 6 lug. It's a 6 lug wheel, but what they're referring to are the lugs that we've got to get to on the inside, and on this one there are 5. Anyway, we'll get right into this. I'm going to go ahead and jack it up. Already got the wheels chalked on the other side. I've got the brake fluid reservoir cap loosened so that when I compress the pistons on the front wheel cylinders, the air and fluid have somewhere to go, and we'll get right to it. All right, we're jacked, we're chalked. We have a safety jack stand under the frame. Never trust your life to a jack. We're gonna pop these, pop this hubcap off. Gonna go ahead and use the impact to get these lug nuts off. It's 21 millimeter. All right, let's get this wheel out of the way. To get the rotors off on this, we'll have to take the entire caliper off. So we'll just go right to the main mounting bolts to the back side, get the entire caliper assembly off. This side does not have a brake sensor. The other side does. A couple of wires go into one of the brake pads there, so be sure you unplug that before you take your caliper off. So we'll get this off. Notice this assembly here. There are 5 holes here that go back and bolt this to your front wheel bearing. So we have to rotate the wheel, find the head bolts, remove those. So we'll get to that in a minute too. So let's just get this brake caliper off first. Also a 21 millimeter. Since none of this stuff has been off, I'm going to go ahead and pre-soak the bolts I can get to with a little penetrating oil. Alright, now we'll see how that goes. Let's get those main bolts off. There's 2 bolts back here. So you saw one came out really pretty easily with the impact wrench. The torque spec on these bolts is torque to yield. So there's the bolt. 2 of these hold the caliper on. They sell these bolt kits, about $45. You'll need 2 of them. If you want to do this right, according to what they're asking, one-time use bolts for all these bolts. I'm sure you have deep well torque torque spits here. You need, especially the T50 has to be a long one like this. You'll also need a T55. It doesn't have to be long, but it doesn't hurt. So I got this whole set here at Lowe's for, I don't know, wasn't too much. So the 2 bolts we're trying to remove are, this one is the one that spun right out at the top, and there's one down here. You saw the impact wrench wouldn't take it off. All right, we're gonna have to start out and smack this again with the hammer on the wrench. Yeah. That trick almost always works for me. Way easier for me than getting a long cheater bar and bending or breaking your ratchet. The shock action does a lot more for you than just a constant pull. Alright, so now this is loose. Now we're going to just pull on this real hard, and just for a moment, and what I'm trying to do is compress the pistons enough to get the brake pads where they'll slide off the edge of the rotor here. I'm just going to pull on the edge. Now it's loose, and there she goes. Okay, like I said, on this one there's no wires, just the brake line to worry about. We'll just stick it up here somewhere safe. That's fine. Okay, now hidden tricks. This is where this one gets tricky. To get these out, see if I have a flashlight. All right, see those holes there? They don't line up with anything right now. I can get my light and camera in the same spot. This is where a lift would be great. I'll get them lined up, then zoom in. Okay, now I don't know if you can see on camera, there's bolts in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and that takes your extended length T 50 Torx bit. All right, so I want to make sure I'm on there good. I'm even gonna give it a little tap, break it loose a little, and then I'll use the ratchet to get them going. Wasn't for a torque to yield spec, that wasn't all that tight. So personally, I would be comfortable with reusing some of these bolts, but I'm not an engineer and I don't work for Ford, so. I'm going to smack it. That also helps break it loose. Come on. There are 5 of these. That one almost came out of the hole. There we go. So they're not that big. Alright, so I verified I have all 5 bolts loose. It's just needs to be broke loose a little bit here. We'll just jostle it around a bit. There we go. Oh, there you go. Now you can see how this works, kind of. The 5 bolts we just took out feed through back here, through here, and into these 5 holes here. And this, some of they don't always fall clear. There we go. Now that since they fall clear, you can see this bearing spins. Now the rotor comes off this way, so instead of coming off the front, it comes off to the back. That's another trick. I mean, it's not too complicated. These 5 bolts come out. These are T55 Torx bit. Take those 5 out, pull those actually are going into the rotor. That's part of the rotor. And so you take those 5 bolts out, that releases the rotor, and it goes off that way, which would be toward the car. Alright, I've got my T50 on there. I'm gonna go around and smack all these. I also have already sprayed everything down with the penetrating oil. We'll do that again as well. Alright, now we'll get the impact on these. Not too hard. Alright, now flip this over, let the bolts fall out, the rotor is going to pull up this way. Of course it's a little bit stuck, but we're going to spray a little penetrating oil in there. There, now it's moving. Okay. There. Okay, there you have it. We're ready to slide the new rotor on, get the new bolts out, bolt it together. Slides down there, line up the bolts from the back side. There we go. Now we're going to get the new bolts out. These are the bigger ones, T55s. Now, what have I got on here? T55. I've got everything started. Don't ever start something with an impact wrench, because it's a recipe for stripping out your threads, cross threading. Just going to seat everything. I'm going to go around and torque. So to start out, I want to line up the bolt holes with my openings on the back side there. That part has to be right, and then I've got to rotate the entire thing to line up with these here. So I put this jack stand here to get me, so I don't have to hold the whole weight of it while I'm figuring that out. So now I'm going to pre-start one bolt through the hole and fish it through the opening here, through the hole there. Okay, now I'm going to rest this up on that jack stand like so, and try to get this bolt started up in the correct bolt hole. It's started, so that's good. That actually went pretty smoothly. I've got 4 more bolts to get in there. I'm going to go ahead and snug that a little bit if I can find my ratchet. There it is. Now, I want to get too tight because I might have to move something. I'm going to look through my holes with the flashlight and see if I still see holes. Yes, everything looks perfectly aligned. But there's still the challenge. Still a challenge of fishing this bolt through all that distance before it hits the where it screws in. Alright, we have two. We'll just repeat this process 3 more times. Now I'm going to torque these. I don't have a torque wrench, so I know they weren't terribly tight. I'm going to get them really good and snug. I'm going to go around star pattern at first and just make sure everything's seated. Alright. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, that is good and tight. Now we can go to changing the brake pads. So since we already have the entire bracket off, we'll just go about it this way instead of a lot of people like to separate the caliper bracket, and that's easier if that's all you're doing, but we've already got it off, so we're going to go ahead and go this way. So having the brake caliper assembly still intact, you can't use the handy piston compression tool because you can't get it in there. So we have to use a big C-clamp. Basically leave the back pad in, get the C-clamp behind it, and again, don't rush this. You got to give the fluid time to move and the pistons time to compress. It's nice and easy, nice and slow. And a little ahead on one side. There are 2 pistons behind this pad. You'll see when I get it off. So the other option would have been just bolt this back together and disassemble the caliper assembly like you would if you was just doing a quick pad change. But this is about as easy if you've gone this far. All right, now a little screwdriver and get this pad out. There you go. These pads, 4 identical pads, are all the same. I did get a hardware kit with this, but spring clips, as long as they're not broken, they're fine. So it's just a typical pad change from here. want to move. I'm going to compress this. Maybe a big old C clamp to help me with that. That's fine. Now we just slide this back down, make sure we don't tie our brake line into a knot. Go back on the same way you came around. Slide that on. Now the two big bolts in the back, we have new ones. Those in. Alright, well, torque goes down. That's pretty much all there is to it. Just the tricks of finding the extra holes. You have to take the whole wheel assembly off. The rotors come off from the back. Just a lot of weird stuff. So I'm going to torque that down. Be sure you pump your brakes before you take off, because the brake pedal will go to the floor the first time, as always, anytime you compress those pistons. So that's how that works.